to the Scaling Japan podcast, a podcast about how to grow your business from $100,000 and beyond in the land of the rising sun.
Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Batino, and on today's episode, we have Takuo Urushihara. He is the program manager for Venture Café Tokyo. I asked some of my friends that I wanted to interview someone about building a community, and Takuo was recommended to me. He has done a great job starting and expanding Venture Café, from doing events in Tokyo to events in many other cities across Japan, like Nagoya, and around Asia. They have done a really great job. And the reason I really want to get Takuo is that he's done events where for the multinational community, so foreign and Japanese together, but he's also done events for Japanese startups as well, predominantly Japanese startups. So I think he's one of the few people who knows a balance between the two, because a common pain point I hear from the foreign startup community is how do we better connect with the Japanese one? And I think we'll get some good insights to know more about the Japanese side as well. Cool. So Takuo, could you please introduce yourself?
Amazing. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Tyson. Again, my name is Takuo Urushihara, but people call me Talk. So, if you ever see me or, talk to me, feel free to call me Talk. I was born in Japan. Grew up in several countries around the world, Japan, Malaysia, and the United States. And I've been in the US for about 20 plus years, straight from middle school to college to grad school. Worked in a variety of different kind of backgrounds, from sports at the Boston Red Sox to startups, so in the drone industry. And pre-pandemic, I moved back to Tokyo for a little while after my MBA. And that's kind of how I got started into the whole innovation ecosystem space, startup space, by starting up or helping start up this entity called Venture Café. And it's been 6 years now growing this innovation community, not just only in Tokyo. We are a global nonprofit organization. So we actually started in Boston, Massachusetts, or Cambridge, Massachusetts, for those of you who are familiar. And it's been quite a ride. So looking forward to talking to you about community building and why it's so needed in Japan.
Or there's no one in the startup community who does not know CIC and Venture Cafe in Japan.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We still got a long ways to go, though.
Because I remember when you guys first got started, and even though I was based in Yokohama, the first event I ever attended was in Nagoya, ironically.
Oh, all right. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, we're in a lot of different places. Tsukuba, Nagoya, Osaka. We have sometimes in Gifu. We do some places around the nation as well. But soon to be, we're going to open up a location in Fukuoka, both a Venture Cafe and CIC, our sister organization as well. So
interesting.
That should be a pretty fun time.
So let's get started. Could you please tell us a bit about CIC and Venture Cafe?
Sure, sounds good. It's a question we get a lot. We're sister organizations and we are under the same umbrella, so people take us hand in hand, which is totally fine. But there's a little bit of a difference between CIC and Venture Cafe. So a little bit of a spiel here. So CIC, born in 1999 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with the kind of goal and mission of fixing the world through innovation. Their business is, at the core, a co-working space / shared office space. And Venture Cafe came about 10 years after, in 2009, also in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And we are a innovation ecosystem community builder. Our mission is to connect innovators to make things happen. And when we work hand in hand between CIC and Venture Cafe, we try to fix the world through innovation by connecting people, if that kind of makes sense. And I work on the Venture Cafe side, which again is a nonprofit. The CIC side is a for-profit organization. And there are like differences and similarities, obviously, because we are coexistent. But at the same time, if you want to think of it a little bit more, I guess literally, then CIC is the box, is the hardware. It's where people can be. So you're physically in the space of CIC. Where Venture Cafe, we're think of us more like an operating system, an OS, somewhere software that kind of runs the ecosystem, and we can go beyond obviously the CIC world and stuff like that to really support the entrepreneur or the startup, or we call them the innovator, because you might work at a big company, you might be a student, but there's an innovator in all of us, and really want to kind of support them. And in order to do so, you need the support of government, you need the support of fellow entrepreneurs, you need the support of lawyers and other community members. And our goal is to kind of create that whole environment and become a one-stop shop for all sorts of innovators to, you know, support themselves and others through our platform that we've built. And that platform is called Thursday Gathering. It's an event that we do weekly in Toranomon, by the Ginza line, the Hibiya line. And we do events for about 4 or 5 hours, both that include sessions and networking simultaneously. And we've amassed over 65,000 guests or attendees in the past 6 years or so. And we keep growing. So it's I know it can get confusing from time to time, but we hope that, all of you can come visit, and whatever support that you may need, feel free to chime in, because, we always say that this community is built by us, and us, we try to include everybody. Without people, there's no community, obviously. So, there is a Venture Cafe way per se, but that Venture Cafe's way is to include everyone within this ecosystem to help everyone succeed and become better and then make a difference in the world.
Cool. No, thanks for sharing that. And actually, I was not. Now I know the difference between the two, because I often actually I'm guilty of doing the same as well.
Hey, you're not alone. Everyone does that. And to make things worse, even within CIC, there's a space called Venture Cafe too. So,
Yeah.
there's an entity Venture Cafe, a space Venture Cafe. And then, people are like, oh, we're gonna go to Venture Cafe. But then you actually go into an event called Thursday Gathering. So you've taken one step further. Our events are called Thursday Gatherings. So, it gets really confusing. We totally get that. And we're happy to kind of go through it and talk to people about it and making sure that everyone's not confused. But at the same time, it's not a bad thing. We're sister and brother organizations, so we work hand in hand very, very closely with each other.
Thank you very much. And before we dive into how to grow a community in Japan, or let's say, and also in general,
Mhm.
I want to help provide some context for the listeners about what type of communities already exist in Japan.
Okay, great.
And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think Tokyo is complex, right? It's diverse. It's one of the very few, or unique places around the world, cities, and a mega city, if you will, where so many industries and so many people and so much diversity is within one location. And it's also very interesting being an island country. There's not a lot of, outside influence that can come in and out so quickly. Obviously now with technology and stuff like it's a lot more feasible. But it's a place that is different just because it's so unique. And you can't do it my way or the highway, especially when you want to collaborate and make things happen like our goal is to do so. So it makes it really tough because, Japan is always another animal, especially compared to the Western side of the world and stuff like even within Asia. I think it's a little bit different, but it's a unique place where there's so much that you can do, but you've got to figure out the way to properly do it. And then, and that's not just saying it to the foreign side of everything. Japanese people need to do the same thing too. So, again, I just want to pre-emphasize that it's a very unique place. But there are, again, so lots and lots of different opportunities to kind of network, connect, and make things happen. Again, starts with CICs of the world, hardware star in Massachusetts, the Venture Cafe that we work with. But there are other places like JETRO, the Japanese External Trade Organization. They help companies start coming in, coming out, import export of their companies and products and services. They're putting up events over at CES and stuff like that, and really supporting the entrepreneurship and startup ecosystem too. Um, and then there's a lot of different places, such as Social Innovation Lab Japan. Um, there's the plug and plays of the world. There's the WeWork. There's all these different places that are kind of communities for entities or entrepreneurs to succeed, whether it's, again, specific to social innovation or other places that can, they have cohorts, almost like a what's it called? Accelerator of some sorts. Um, but are there others that you think that are great, Tyson? Um,
Yeah, I think it's some ones I think are I think the Tokyo Lunch Club is pretty good. I think they
uh-huh.
meet once a week, I think, in Tokyo, and it's very
Yeah,
open
right
to
by the
people.
school,
Oh, gotcha.
right
It's
by the UN,
open to
UN.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's by the UN something.
yeah, yeah.
And it's good where I think people who want to start a company or just starting a company, it's just very relaxed. Let's
Mm,
say not too much on the sales side. It's just more people coming together to help each other. I think
absolutely.
Osaka has Startup Guild where they're doing events.
Mm.
One thing I'm seeing, it's we'll see if it can. I think Kenneth Jang, he's been
Oh yeah,
inviting some really high profile people.
yeah,
Like, typically people who normally wouldn't come to Japan to give a seminar, but listening to world-class people give a seminar on a topic related to
absolutely.
growing a company are some pretty cool ones.
Yeah, and then as you always say, like there's also the country entities too, like French Tech and all these different people that are running events and also holding entities within Tokyo to kind of influence and bring that influence from their own kind of regions to Japan to start up collaborations and stuff like that. And they're normally open to everyone kind of joining in. Um, and then kind of like smaller groups like, Luwagan and stuff like that
Mm.
to coding camps. Um, and they're very niche kind of meetups within the whole more local kind of entities, which are also normally open to people too. So there's a lot going on. Um, and it's kind of have to find them. But then once you find them, it's pretty easy to get into.
Yeah, I think that's kind of I think that the challenge now is it's not about finding something that matches your need, but it's actually let's say finding something that's or it's yeah, I mean before it's just you just attend whatever's going on, even if it's kind of generally related, you attend it. But nowadays it really niches down. Like I think you
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
social innovation, Japan.
yeah.
I think there's a startup lady for women who want to.
Oh yeah, they're great too. Startup Lady is a great organization. We've collaborated with them ever since we opened in 2018. They're great. Always supporting them. Um, yeah, and there's within, like you said, niche social innovation can lead to like companies like MyMizu and stuff like that trying to make a movement in Japan. And I think they're doing great too. Um, yeah, there's the endeavors of the world and stuff like that where you can kind of go well. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It's fun though.
Yeah, no, it is fun. Like there's something for everyone. And
Mm.
like in my case, I was the organizers that I should have joined with my previous company was EO Tokyo, where I think to get in, your company needs to do 1 million revenue a year to
Okay,
be part of
okay.
this kind of founder community. I didn't want to pay 3,000 to 4,000 at the time because we
Mm.
spent all our money reinvesting in the company as opposed to
Which is
myself.
important.
But EO Tokyo is pretty cool. I think for women who are not in the startup world, there's
Mm.
Few Japan.
Okay.
Uh,
I mean, for
uh,
women, the whole like femtech area is coming out with Fermata and stuff like that. They're doing an amazing job right now too. So women empowerment finally kind of not finally, but coming along in Japan. Much needed. And it's a definitely a sometimes people say it's a taboo topic to talk about, but if we don't talk about it, nothing's gonna happen. So I think it's a great kind of movement that's happening right now. and it's a really interesting space, you know. So I think it's gonna keep growing in Japan, and there's a lot of stuff pushed behind it as well. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, there's just so much going on. And I'll just finish off with one last one, but it's so I think this is one that most foreigners don't know about, but there
Hmm.
are like I guess in the US you would have like a Patreon community or you might have a
Um,
community like a paid community around some entrepreneur.
okay.
And in Japan they have something similar to that, but they
Yeah.
don't use the word community really, like they use the word online salon.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like Horeemon, the famous entrepreneur,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like he charges, I think, 10,000 yen a month,
Oh,
and
wow.
he has like 1,000 members.
Wow.
And I think they just do monthly events. They do a couple events a month. You can ask him questions, talk to him. And the other one that's doing pretty well is Nakata-san from Oriental Radio, who does, I think, Nakata University on YouTube. I think he
Okay.
has several
Okay.
million followers.
Wow.
But I think he has a community of like 6,000 people where they pay him 1,000 yen a month.
Wow.
And so that's like, you know, that's half a million a month, I think,
Yeah.
might add up to. He has like a 15, 30-minute chat in the morning, just
Hmm.
telling his community like what's on his mind.
Hmm.
And then people who like him, let's say they can talk about it. So there's a lot of online salons in Japan. You might find this funny, but I think one of the top two is DMM.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, DMM had a huge kind of turnaround and stuff like that recently, and not recently, but you know, pre-pandemic as well. So that was cool for them. But yeah, I mean, COVID, right? It changed a lot of different things. It kind of shifted a lot of different things, and I think a lot of them was for good. You know, the world's a lot smaller now due to technology, and you know, you can have these Zoom meetings everywhere around the world. It's more intertwined, but then I mean, obviously a little bit of difficulties that come around with it. But you know, you gotta think positively, and I think you know, being able to stream events and kind of participate from wherever you are in the world, and um, get connected into ecosystems that you never thought was possible with a click of a button is amazing.
Yeah, I would agree. It's so easy. Like I think you mentioned, there's like the industry events, like fintech. There's groups for that, and I
Absolutely.
and I think the last one, for Japanese, this would be more for the listeners who are, maybe you're in a more local area, but they
Okay.
have, I think, Lions Club in Japan, and I think they have a
Mm.
Shusei Club. But I think at least for Shusei Club, you have to be invited to join.
Okay.
But
Kind of like the
they're
Tokyo American Club, you got to get invited.
invited, yeah.
Yeah,
But the
okay.
Shusei
Got it.
clubs are usually like it might only be like 50,000 a year or something, but they have a
Okay.
lot of parties. But if you're local,
Got it.
that would be a good way to get in with the local community entrepreneurs.
Mm. Makes sense. Makes sense.
One of the common challenges I see with my consulting clients is not having any staff internally who can drive marketing strategy and execution to the next level. This really limits the growth trajectory of a company, especially for a leader like you that wants to go from 30 million to 500 million yen a year and does not have the time to spend years learning through trial and error. To solve this problem, I'm launching a marketing agency that can help companies like yours to increase leads and closing rates through SEO, Google Maps, content marketing, and websites that convert. Head over to scalingyourcompany.com and book a free consultation. Let's talk about what your business needs are, where your current strategy is letting you down, and how we can help you see real results with the methods I've successfully implemented at multiple companies myself. Now, back to the episode. So next, I guess to the main topic of our chat today is like how to grow a community. And I was
Okay.
thinking of, well, maybe we could approach it as maybe how to grow a community, maybe more on the Japanese side, and then
Hmm.
maybe also making a multinational or multicultural community. And
Absolutely.
sounds good. I would like to dive into maybe a multicultural community
Okay.
first.
Perfect.
And so I guess, yeah, so I guess from your experience, like maybe what do both the Japanese and the foreign guests really
Hmm.
want to see from like venture cafe and startup events?
Yeah, I think so. You know, our mission again is to connect innovators to make things happen, and we purposely make it broad on both ends. Connecting innovators, again, you got to kind of decipher that into who is an innovator, what is an innovator, and talking about, again, you could work at a big company or a big corporation, Daikyo, and be like, oh, I work for so and so, I hold this position, and I am doing what and what for these people, which is great. But deep down inside, I want to be a rock star. I want to be a musician. I'm really into instruments and stuff like that, and there could be a student who's, aspiring to become a mechanical engineer, but he loves to travel, he loves to go outside, and stuff like that. And, your passion, your motivation of things that are outside your career, things that drive you come from within. And, that's sometimes where the innovator gets sparked. So that side of our mission is that fact that there's an innovator in all of us, aside from just being wanting to do something for the career. And then make things happen, the goal, the outcome of our community. There's so many different things that could come out of it. Again, due to the fact that everyone has different motivations and objectives in life or in their careers or whatever that they may have. So, a person gets hired into a startup, or a person goes from a startup to a corporation, and all these entrepreneurs and stuff like that have different kind of problems that they might have and in different fields. But then once you start discussing, talking, sharing, connecting with each other, you seem to realize that there are commonalities. One way of figuring something out in the music industry might be very similar to someone who holds a doctorate degree and is in research or something like that. And then, again, we don't know, we don't want to solve just one problem because we know that there's more than one problem out there. So again, the mission, connecting innovators to make things happen, once you start dissecting it, holds value in so many different ways. So understanding that, you kind of break it down and say it doesn't matter if you're Japanese or American or from Turkey or from the UAE or wherever in the world you might be. People have different problems. People see different opportunities, and we really wanted to create a community where everyone can come together. It's a safe environment for people to share and discuss ideas, failures, opportunities. So that's kind of like at the core what we want people to be able to do. But again, it's based on networking. It's based on learning from sessions. It's based on all the different things. So bring in that kind of essence from where it started in Cambridge, Massachusetts, now Tokyo, even to this day, 6 years in, we are still trying to make the event slash the community better and better. How do we get people to, not only come by, but really be able to extract that value out of the community. And as a community builder, that is our main goal, our one and only goal. If the community is well, then there'll be good outputs and there'll be a lot of social changes that could come out of it. And if we can change, one person's kind of thought processes or product or service or any sort of outcome, then, we think that we've done a good job. But we also understand that, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Community building is a marathon, and it keeps going, it keeps on going, it keeps on going. And in order for something good to happen, you need culture. You need a good culture. And in order to do that, it's about repetition and consistency. Hence, we run events each and every week.
Because you've committed to Thursday,
Yeah.
it's everyone's expecting it, and you can't cancel, right?
Exactly. Our CEO over in Cambridge, the big guy, Tim Rowe, always says, we're a church for startups. We're a place that people can come to, feel safe. It feels, it's a place that people can rely on. So rain, sleet, shine. I heard Tokyo got some snow recently. And we're always there. And if you go specifically dive into the entrepreneur and startup world, we know people are bootstrapped, and a lot of people think bootstrapping means money or cash all the time, but people bootstrap for time too. We understand that time is a very important part of any entrepreneur's life. And although we host events for 5 hours each and every Thursday, we don't expect everyone to come every week for 5 hours. That's a lot of time and slash money that you're giving away just by being in a event in our our community. And it's not to say we don't want you there. We of course we want you there, but we understand that that's not the reason we are building this. The reason we're building this is so that people can feel at home, feel safe, and then if they need help, we're here to help. But then also people, community building is a two-way road where it's not always about taking either. It's about giving too. So, once you get to this place where you're comfortable to start participating a little bit more, you have more time or you have just a little bit more energy to come by, then, your experience and whatever you've done in the past, whatever startup you've built up, whatever mentor you've done before can help other people too. So it's kind of like that alumni ring around where all right, you came in 2018, you want to take a little break, you want to meet some new people. Yeah, come back into 2024 and, you know, talk to people, give your knowledge, share your knowledge. And in return, you probably learn something new again, which is the great part.
And so I think that consistency, I think that's actually one of the key things to grow a community
Mm.
because it will have was essentially that community of interest. The more you put into it. In our case, we were doing 3 episodes and we did 2 episodes, but now we're investing in 3 episodes again.
Oh, wow.
And
Great for
we're
you.
actually going to do 4 episodes a month now from this month.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. You're stepping it up even more now.
And I think even more, and that's like our investment to the community. I think there's a lot of podcasts. Like I think Disrupting Japan is really great because like Tim can get like interviews with like people that no one else can get.
Everybody. Exactly.
Yeah,
He's
like
great.
to hear like smart HR.
Mm.
Mine's is more focused on like tactical.
Mm.
So like how do you actually do something in Japan? What has
Yeah,
this person learned from there? And but there's
absolutely.
just so many topics to cover. And so like we're trying to get to that 100, like 100 mark.
Okay. Okay. How
And
many more you got to 100?
about 35, 30.
Ooh, okay. You're getting close.
So yeah, I think definitely this year we'll break the 100 mark.
Absolutely. And four a month, you're gonna get there pretty quickly.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Scaling Japan. In addition to serving as your fine host, I also provide advisory and coaching services to business owners who want to 2x, 5x, and even 10x their business. So stop holding your company and your team and your employees back and let me help you and your company scale. Find more information at scalingyourcompany.com. Now back to the episode.
Kind of touching upon that and going back to your old question, your first question, just touching upon the kind of multicultural, multilingual part too. In Japan, if we hold something that was completely in English or completely in Japanese, event-wise, you'll only kind of get that people who are speaking or used to that language to come by our event. And again, to this day, our biggest, not problem, but opportunity that we want to keep pursuing is the fact that we want to make one of the biggest multilingual or multicultural communities in Japan. And it's important for both sides to understand that, Japan is one way, the foreign world is multiple ways, but there's another way of doing things. And it's not to say that one side is right or one side is wrong. It's just to open people's minds that there are other ways of doing things. And then at the core, obviously, language is one of the biggest things that we have to overcome in order to understand each other. Whether that's, from a session or just purely communicating in a network setting. So, our goal has always been to build the core of the community with people who understand and can comprehend, or at least be risk-taking enough to be able to try and communicate in both languages. And if that core community has been built, then whatever programming that we put on a weekly basis, the core will be kind of like that connector between whoever is coming into the community for the very first time to the people who've come from the past. And then again, we're a global network. So when people from Warsaw or Boston come into Tokyo, it's a great landing place for them. And then,
Mm.
that kind of gets them to meet even more people who they might not meet beforehand as well. So, when you talk about strategy and tactics, one of our one of the things that we are always mindful of is to make sure that there's a good balance between the Japanese community and that foreign community.
And in your experience, like yeah, creating that core group, I think that's also a key part of the strategy for us growing a community. But for those who are thinking about making a community or those who might be struggling a little bit, could
Mm.
you maybe give like some insight maybe on like I guess part of the things they would probably need to know is like, what things they could do or maybe how many people they need or like kind of the
Hmm.
consistency. But do you have any kind of tips based on your experience, like I guess building the core group, but also just kind of like some numbers so they can kind of visualize if they don't have experience
Yeah, I
building
mean, I think I can talk to this in two different ways. One is talking directly about this venture cafe community we built for 6.5 years. But then before I get there, I think, in order to build a community, you have to really understand why you're building it and what you are building. So the answer I might give you, I'm going to try to give it as generic as possible. But, that's kind of like a very bland recipe for this cake that we're going to build together. Um, but you have to understand that, there is probably some specificity to what you want to do and who you're building it for and why you're building it. So the very first thing I think is to know thyself, if you want to put it that way, as in, what are you trying to build? What
and
community are you
and
really
just
trying to build?
listening to you today too, like I think you just hit on the word innovation,
Yeah.
innovation and kind of like matching and innovation. So you've actually done a very good job communicating that point because I'm very clear on your focus with Cafe now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I mean, I might not even have known that I've said that word so many times, but it's so ingrained into what we do that we have to kind of describe it that way. So, when we first built out Venture Cafe here in Tokyo, so this is how, I guess, in a sense for the audience, it'll be a case study of what we did and why we did so. Venture Cafe, connecting innovators to make things happen. That's our kind of mission. That's what we do. And a lot of people are like, oh, we should hold all our sessions in English. And we said, hey, language, yes, it's a very interesting thing to consider. But if we do everything in English, we're going to completely knock out half the population of Japan, maybe even more. People are going to be either afraid to come by because they don't understand it. People won't come by because they don't understand it, et cetera, et cetera. So, we said, yes, it's important that we have these English sessions or English programming or English opportunities, but, language will not kind of provide enough value. So although language is a big kind of push, we said, no, that's not really the essence of what Thursday Gatherings and Venture Cafe stands for. So we built out what these is called a credo, and the credo is kind of guidelines to or a mindset to have while participating in any of the events that we do. And the very first thing that comes to top is having fun. You know, we say number one, have fun. And having fun from a lot of people can mean different things. You had fun today because you learned something new. I'm having a great time today because Tyson, I met you for the very first time, and there's a great opportunity, and I'm getting to know you today. So meeting people is fun. You found a new startup. That's a fun time. There's so many different ways of having fun. But we want you, again, as yourself, to have fun at our events.
Gotcha. Because I took a look at your events and yeah, there seems to be a lot of experimentation or trying like different styles.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Really.
And that's, part of our credo too. And that's, I think, 4 or 5, where it's like, don't be afraid to fail, challenge new things, be curious. And it's super important for that to kind of, and again, we're an innovation community builder. We run on innovation. We're trying out new things. So, we can't just say, hey, go innovate and not do it ourselves. We got to kind of stamp what in walk the walk and talk the talk in a sense. We got to do it both. And then, one of our other big things is we're not here to hard sell anybody. We don't allow for hard selling. You can't be like, hey, I'm Talk, I work for Venture Cafe. I think we're great. Hey, Tyson, you want to sign up for my newsletter? That's not the way we want to communicate with people. And business talk happens. We completely understand that. And we want it to happen. That's kind of like the bread and butter why we're doing things. But we don't want your first start conversation to be, hey, do you want to buy my product? Do you want to sign up for this? Because that's not a great way to kind of build community, right? That's more the other C word called customer creation. And we're not here to build customers. We're really here to build community and long-lasting relationships. And again, so, kind of we built out this credo so people understand the community that we're building together. And then once you kind of set those guidelines, once people start to understand that it's going for, people start to kind of become an ambassador. People instill that kind of mindset within what these 4 or 5 hours within this event, then okay, this is what it's all about. And again, people bootstrap for time and money. Like I said, at the same time, this community might not be for you at this certain point in time. And that's totally okay. We understand that. But then 2 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe, a week from today, you're ready for it. And again, because we do this each and every week, we hopefully will become the place for you to come stop by and, enjoy a conversation or two and meet some cool people. So, it's this constant battle of making sure that it's fresh, fun, and interesting to everybody, with the mindset of making sure that it is both for that Japanese audience in Tokyo or around Japan, but also for everyone else visiting from around the world.
Yeah, I think you brought up some interesting points in it made me think about, the difference between community versus customer creation. And that, let's say, if a person goes into it with the mindset of, if they're creating their own community, but really they just want to get sales,
Yeah.
it ends up failing
Mm,
because the members that end up joining the group, they're really focused on their own needs
mm.
and selling their own product as opposed to
Yep.
expanding the community, being an ambassador. They won't share it with their friends. They won't share it with their competitor friends. I'm not sure there's a way to
Yeah, whatever.
combine
Yeah,
both.
exactly.
And and so
And there's
and but
always a
that
time for it, again, we totally understand everyone has objectives and goals that they want to meet, and some people are customers of each other, or a person they'll meet down the road, but that's not the starting point that we want people to be in.
I've seen multiple online groups. Like there's a Tokyo Expat Network, which has
Mm,
20 or 30,000 people, extremely active. It's
mm,
probably the best run Facebook group in Japan.
mm.
And you also have one for English school owners. We have an English school owners group on Facebook, which is also well run.
Okay.
And both of them have very strict rules about sales and promotion.
Mm,
It's in both cases,
absolutely.
they limit it one Tokyo Expat Network, it's one weekend a month.
Okay. Okay.
You can pitch your product, or the English school owners one, it's you can pitch it yeah, I think it's like 1 day a month.
Okay. Okay.
But other than that, it's they're very consistent, like don't do it. And and because of that consistency
Mm,
of well managing the community, because like you mentioned, having that vision is important. I think they're able to create like really amazing, at least amazing Facebook groups.
mm. No, at first, even as a builder, I didn't understand how effective and how needed that kind of rule or guideline was. But the more and more you instill yourself into it, it makes a lot more sense. Again, as a community builder, it made a lot of sense for us.
Yeah, and I think when they had that kind of core principle, I think they were able to attract core members.
Mm, mm, absolutely. And the definition of core member can mean so many different things for so many different community members, but I totally understand for a podcast, it might be the listeners and people who reach out. I want to listen to these people and stuff like that. And for us, it's also, we talk about, obviously we want to grow community members or numbers at events and stuff like that. But again, the diversity of thought and the diversity of, kind of like that whole mental edge is super important to us too. So that, for us bringing that curiosity and new kind of thought processes and new products and new services and new connections are super, super important. And the people that can bring that to us, we're always, always very thankful for. Because that just helps everyone's mind expand, and having that growth mentality and
Yeah,
growth mindset is super important.
because I think you guys are probably the best for discovery.
No, thank you.
Like
Appreciate it.
it's you do an event on green, and it might be like 3 hour event just on green, 3 to 5
Yeah,
hours. So you can dive
absolutely.
real deep.
Yeah, and then it's both ways, right? Diving deep is super important too, and diving wide is important. And
Mm.
we try to make it as fresh and kind of interesting as possible, and we call it a serendipitous collision. And it's because you came on that specific Thursday, you were able to meet someone in the food and beverage industry, to the manga industry, to the athletic industry, to the AI industry, or whatever it might be. And just because you work in robotics doesn't mean that a musician can't help you out down the road.
Mm.
And so it's and that person, he or she might not be the one to help you out today, but maybe 5 weeks from now, maybe 10 years from now, you never know that connection where it could lead to. Um, so it's a way to grow your network, but also expand your mind.
I agree. I think you've put it very well. It's people who you it's I mean if you just go to industry events, you meet
Mm.
industry people and you learn industry ways. But
Which is great.
yeah, I mean it's very effective
Mm,
if you kind of know where you want to go. But if you want to
exactly.
innovate, you do have to meet people from different industries and hear what different things are going. So, yeah, it sounds
Absolutely.
or the more I hear you talk about Venture Cafe, it really starts to, I think, materialize like, okay, you guys actually do have or like you guys have that core mission and just the way you speak about it is very clear as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm glad I'm making sense.
I think we have a couple minutes left, but I think
Perfect.
so maybe I guess one insight I kind of had just speaking with you right now was
Mhm.
that the big pain point of like how do we get the Japanese community more involved? And I think you
Mm.
kind of had the answer where it's you need to have events in Japanese as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think, and there's I don't want to generalize, but I will generalize for the sake of time. But a lot of Japanese people have a want to come to a session because they want to see a certain speaker speak. So they come with like an objective, and they end up, going to the speaker session, maybe talking to the speaker if they have an opportunity to, and then kind of walking out because, that day is done. As opposed to a lot of the communities here in the US, as far as Venture Cafe goes, they do want to listen to so and so speak, but then they get so caught up in a conversation walking to the kind of session room, and 2 hours later, they're still talking with whoever they met earlier, and their networking goes. And you ask them, "Oh, what happened? I thought you were gonna go listen to so and so speak." And they're like, "Oh, this conversation was just so fun that I just ended up staying here." So in a sense, the networking culture in the United States, or other places outside of Japan, have a little bit more of a take on it, and they're able to kind of a little bit more freely, openly talk to each other. Um, and so, again, our kind of goal was to figure out a way for both things to happen really well. So when we had a big session, we tried to get the speakers and the people to kind of stay along in the networking area a little bit longer, so that the whole network will kind of stay a little bit more. And then by having the drinks and stuff like that for people to stay, and while that's going on, other sessions are going on as well. And then the networking gets a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you create vibes with people who are more natural networkers to kind of start talking to each individual and stuff like that. And then, after that was being built, we put on a lot more demo tables with startups and entrepreneurs showcasing the ideas. So there's more like things to visually look at, visually please yourself, and then kind of get interested. Again, curiosity, another big word that we use in our community, right? And get people kind of starting to talk that way as well. So we put little things that people could slowly kind of engage
Mm.
within the community. So obviously bringing them in was one thing, but getting them to not go out or and not to say we want to trap them inside because that sounds terrible, but getting them more
No, it
accustomed to
makes,
talking with each other was one
yeah.
of our kind of missions as well in the very beginning.
I think just that, or having that time length, I can see that being conducive because I've been to a lot of events. Normally 30 minutes, you'll be talking to people you already know,
Hmm.
sometimes even 60 minutes. But if it's,
Absolutely.
like 3 hours, especially 5 hours,
Absolutely.
it was just, yeah, oh, cool. That was a good insight.
So
And maybe the last 2 minutes would be so I guess I'm starting a community. Like any tips for growing it through maybe like LinkedIn or email?
yeah, I mean, it really depends on again, like what kind of community you're trying to build, whether, I think there's different things for like online and digital communities versus people in person. Like, we're more focused on the in person. So,
Hmm.
in the US it might be like a meetup.com or like Eventbrite or something like that. In Tokyo specifically, we chose to go with PTX just because it's a lot more there's people who live there. So, really figuring out where your audience members, the core of your audience members lives, and really going at it with those kind of platforms is super important. But if you're
No,
doing a kind
I
of digital
agree.
podcast and stuff like that, it's going your digital routes and doing a little bit of promotions and kind of paid promotions and stuff like that will help you out. But again, it's really know thyself and really understanding what you want to do, who you're building it for, and why you're doing it, will kind of help you lead down the road, I think.
Yeah, and I agree. I think if I was targeting just purely the Japanese market, I would go with PTix and I haven't tested it, but maybe Facebook. And if
Yeah,
it was foreigners, Eventbrite plus meetup.com.
yeah.
And like you mentioned, just talking to podcasts, talking to other people with communities. I would say like we don't plan to do a community. I think we mainly want to focus on blogging and YouTube and podcasts. But if we
Mm,
were, I think we would be kind of co-managing events with like we'll use our own time and help other people run their events and do it like a collaborative
absolutely.
event.
Absolutely. And that's how you get the word out even more, you get a lot of people who are kind of listening and you're an influence within that kind of social platform. So it makes a lot of sense to collaborate.
So cool. This has been great. Yes, I guess where can people find you and any last message for the audience?
Sure. Again, my name is Takuo Urushihara. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's TakuoUrushihara. You can always find me there. Physically speaking, again, our event's in Toranomon in the business tower, within an organization called CIC Tokyo. It's every Thursday, 4 to 9 p.m. Unless otherwise noted, the big holidays were off, such as Obon. But we're always here, always welcoming of everybody who wants to take part. And if you're ever in a location outside of Tokyo that has a venture cafe, feel free to stop by. If you ever need an intro to any of those communities, happy to do so as well. So thank you for this opportunity, Tyson. I look forward to maybe potentially doing even more episodes with you down the line. Good luck on reaching 100. Looking forward to that day as well this year. And I look forward to meeting you in person as well.
Yes, I'll be in Tokyo, I think, for a Takeoff Tokyo in April. And so
Perfect.
might be able to finally see CIC and
Hey,
Venture
you're more than
Cafe.
welcome anytime. Just let me know.
Thank you very much.